So when you picture Angkor Wat, what comes to mind? Probably this incredible stone temple, right? The largest religious monument on Earth, just kind of emerging out of the Cambodian jungle. But here's the thing. Angkor was so much more than just a temple. It was this massive, sprawling city, a civilization of unbelievable power, and honestly, a place that's still full of mysteries.
And that, for me, is the most exciting part. You know, even after literally centuries of people studying this place, our whole picture of Angkor is constantly being redrawn by new discoveries. We are still peeling back the layers of this amazing civilization, finding new things, and realizing just how much we never knew.
Okay, let's dive right into the central puzzle of Angkor, because it's a big one. On one side, you've got the temples. They're built of stone, so they've managed to survive for nearly 1,000 years. But then you have the records of a massive city, a place that was home to almost 1 million people at its peak. So, where did they all go? Where did they live? All their homes, their palaces, their markets, they were all built out of wood and thatch. And over the centuries, they've just completely vanished.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do in this explainer. We're going to solve the mystery of this ghost city. How could a metropolis of this scale just disappear off the map? And maybe more importantly, how did we finally manage to find it again?
You know, the reason the city just kind of disappeared is really a story about two things: materials and Mother Nature. Everything that wasn't a sacred temple, everything from the king's palace to a regular person's home, it was all built from organic stuff that just stood no chance in that tropical climate. And the jungle, well, the jungle grew back with a vengeance, swallowing everything. All that was left were these faint little ripples on the surface of the land, mounds, ponds, the outlines of old roads, clues that were almost impossible to see. For the longest time, it led people to believe Angkor was just a bunch of temples in the middle of nowhere, not a real sprawling city.
But to even begin to understand how this city was possible in the first place, we have to look at the absolutely incredible engineering that powered the entire Khmer Empire.
See, the Khmer Empire was built in a land of total extremes. You had these torrential monsoon floods, and then you have these punishingly long dry seasons. To build a civilization here, you couldn't just live with the water, you had to control it. And this mastery over water wasn't just, important, it was the absolute engine of their entire empire. And what's so fascinating is how they blended the practical with the spiritual. On one hand, they grew this amazing type of rice called floating rice that could literally grow fast enough to stay above the floodwaters. But they also believed the water itself had to be holy. They actually carved thousands of religious symbols into riverbeds to bless the water as it flowed down towards their fields. It was both a brilliant agricultural machine and this massive act of collective faith.
The scale of their water engineering it's mind-boggling. Take the West Baray, for example. Now, this wasn't some natural lake. It was a gigantic reservoir, dug entirely by hand. And how big are we talking? Well, it stretched for an incredible 8 kilometers. That's like lining up 80 football fields end to end. And in terms of how much it could hold, the West Baray could store almost 50 billion liters of water. That's enough to fill 20,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This single reservoir was designed to capture the monsoon rains and just hold on to them, creating this huge buffer that got them through the brutal dry season. A city this size would have been impossible without it.
And here's the payoff, right? This entire intricate system of reservoirs and canals allowed them to quadruple their grain harvest. That created a massive food surplus that fed everyone. It powered their economy, and it freed up all the labor they needed to go and build those incredible stone temples we see today.
So for centuries, the secrets of this lost wooden city stayed hidden under that dense jungle canopy. But then, a modern piece of tech finally gave archaeologists the power to see what had been completely invisible to the naked eye.
The breakthrough was a technology called LiDAR. Okay, so imagine you're flying over the jungle in a helicopter, and you're firing hundreds of thousands of laser pulses every single second down at the ground. Now, most of them are going to hit leaves and branches, but a few will find their way through the little gaps and hit the actual forest floor. By recording just those returns, a computer can digitally erase all the vegetation and create a perfect 3D map of the ground itself. It's basically like a high-tech X-ray for the entire landscape. And look at the difference this makes. If you look at a normal satellite image of the area around Angkor's main temples, what do you see? Pretty much just a dense green carpet of forest, right? The city's secrets are completely hidden. But then, you run the LiDAR data. You digitally strip away all those trees and boom, suddenly everything changes. This vast, formally planned urban space just emerges from the data.
You can see roads, canals, the mounds where houses stood, ponds, all laid out in this massive grid pattern. The ghost city wasn't a ghost at all. It was just hiding in plain sight the entire time.
The thing is, the LiDAR scans didn't just find a city. They forced a complete rethink of what kind of city Angkor actually was. Turns out it was nothing like what we had imagined.
This discovery completely rewrote the textbooks. The old view was, temples surrounded by jungle. The new understanding is a vast urban landscape that stretched for hundreds of square kilometers. We always thought it had a dense core, like ancient Rome, but it was actually this sprawling, low-density complex. And that line we always draw between city and countryside, it just didn't apply here. It was all one big integrated system where people literally lived among their rice fields.
So what do archaeologists call this? Well, the term is low-density agrarian urbanism. It's a totally different way of thinking about what a city even is. Instead of cramming people into tight quarters, the city itself was a mosaic of homes, gardens, rice paddies, roads, and canals, all interconnected as part of one massive urban system. Here's a good way to think about it. Instead of picturing a single, dense city like ancient Rome, it's actually more helpful to think of a modern, sprawling urban region, like that network of cities and towns in Belgium and the Netherlands they call the Flemish Diamond. Angkor was basically an ancient version of that modern idea.
But here's the twist in the story. The very system that allowed Angkor to become a megacity, that incredible mastery of water, also held the seeds of its own destruction.
Its collapse wasn't some single dramatic event. It was a slow-motion failure over 2 centuries. First, economic power started shifting to sea-based trade, and that pulled people away from the inland capital. With fewer people around to maintain it, that massive water network started to silt up and break down. And then, the climate delivered the final knockout blow, a series of catastrophic, decades-long droughts that the failing system just couldn't handle.
And this reveals this powerful, kind of tragic irony, right? That complex, super-engineered water system was a marvel that supported 1 million people. But when it got strained by neglect and then hammered by unprecedented climate change, its very complexity became a critical weakness. The whole system was too interconnected, too vast to fix, and it just collapsed.
But the story of Angkor isn't just a piece of ancient history. Its rise and its fall hold some really profound and frankly urgent lessons for our own interconnected urban world today.
So why does this ancient city matter to us now? Well, because we live in an age of urban sprawl, and Angkor is a 900-year-old case study of that exact pattern. Its collapse is a pretty stark warning about how vulnerable our own complex systems, our power grids, our supply chains, our water networks, are to the shocks of climate change. Angkor's story is a powerful reminder that sustainability isn't just some modern buzzword, it's a timeless challenge, and no civilization, no matter how great, is too big to fail.
So it leaves us with this fascinating and, let's be honest, maybe unsettling question. The Khmer built a civilization that lasted 600 years, but its huge urban heart was eventually taken back by the jungle, its very existence almost completely forgotten. It really makes you wonder, what will future archaeologists find when they start to peel back the layers of our own sprawling cities? And what lessons will they learn from the choices that we're making right now?